Indiana Fever many fans is still poking fingers at head coach Stephanie White for actually making the game not entertaining anymore, bro. This motion offense has to be addressed, and Stephanie White has to be held accountable because it's truly the offense that she's running, and it is not for Caitlin Clark at this point. Now, both Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White spoke to the media immediately.
What actually took place in the background? Caitlin Clark recently revealed her health in a brutally honest way. Oh, and she didn't spare Stephanie White either. Was it the shade? Was that accurate? Was it both? Served cold after being wrapped in a jump shot. This isn't your typical news conference, so you'll have to see it to believe it. No, not at all. I'm Caitlin, uncensored. Jaws are on the floor, to put it mildly. Take some popcorn. That's the type of video.
Thought at times we could have played a little bit faster, and I think that's on me, like not conceding in that. We still got to play up tempo, we still got to play fast. But I mean, I thought for the most part we did a lot of stuff that coach wanted us to do, and you know, that wasn't why we lost.
I can't hold you, man. That kind of looked like she let that slip out, man. I don't know. But I mean, we all see it. When they play slow, it's just not a good team, man. They're not as good as we see that they could be, right? So they need to play fast, man. I think, you know, they don't necessarily look that good when they're playing half-court ball. Maybe taking something from the Valkyries, man. The Valkyries run, all right? They be running.
She appears spiritually drained and worn down rather than fatigued. Caffeine, fumes, and sheer willpower are what keep Caitlin Clark going. The WNBA, on the other hand, presents her with every obstacle imaginable, treating her like a deranged American ninja warrior with harsher officials and coaching. Put the hardwood aside. This woman is negotiating landmines.
The league needs to take care of Caitlin, not for special treatment purposes, but that's who everybody's there to see. Everybody wants to see Caitlin Clark play. And if you let other teams and other people beat the shit out of her, she's going to spend 2 weeks out injured. And your attendance is going to drop because people aren't going to get the chance to see her. And if you actually want to be paid the same as the NBA players, obviously not by actual dollar for dollar, but for revenue percentage, you need to protect her. You need her to be playing at her best and not be having the
She has also become the favorite chew toy of referees, who must have thought she was a tackling dummy, despite being the face of optimism, development, and ticket sales. Missed calls are no longer the only issue. Referees evaluate how many illegal screens and shoulder bumps a player can withstand before becoming emotionally unstable in this full-fledged scientific experiment.
Vegas Aces defeated the Indiana Fever 89-81. And this game was disappointing for many fans, not only for the fact that it seemed like the Fever had this one in the bag, but they kind of gave it away at the end of the game, but also because it seemed like there was something off with this Fever team. They didn't have the same energy and spark that we all know and love. So many fans are asking, what is going on?
It's also not a pleasant sight. The whistles have evolved into wind instruments that only sound when she is engaged in an activity. Suddenly, the rulebook seems like Chaos's choose-your-own-adventure book. It's play on if someone sneezes on her. However, she will be suspended for 2.5 games if she breathes close to someone.
I have figured out the solution to the Indiana Fever's problems. Hear me out, hear me out, hear me out. This is what we got to do. We got to put Caitlin Clark off ball. We need to run a motion offense, so when the defense takes away what Caitlin Clark does best, we have other players that can still perform, so when she does have bad games, we're not completely dead in the water. I think that is the best way to move forward with this Indiana Fever.
Physicality is illegal. Legitimately suspicious, not symbolically. Muggings with minimal contact do occur. We may now need to see if any of these defenders have brass knuckles taped beneath their bracelets. What is the league's reaction? Crickets. Or worse, passive-aggressive Instagram postings that act as though nothing is wrong when their biggest star is body-slammed into oblivion. And let's not even talk about Indiana. It's not even close to being emotionally taxing. There's a bad vibe. It's a heavy air. The atmosphere in the locker area is reminiscent of a ghostly group therapy session sponsored by Gatorade and Ruined Dreams. Caitlin felt as though she had entered a franchise made solely of IKEA furnishings. Unstable, brittle, and just difficult to put together. You would think Indiana would welcome a generational talent with open arms. No, not at all. They directed her to a leaky faucet and gave her a paper towel. While her colleagues are occupied with playing hungry hippos, she is attempting to play 4D chess. The offense is not specified. The defense is non-existent. And inexplicably, Stephanie White is sketching plays from the sidelines like she's using invisible ink to play Pictionary. There's only vibrations, no direction, no system. Not the good sort, either.
First talk about Caitlin Clark. So she struggled once again in this game. She was 7 for 20 from the field and 1 for 10 from 3, which puts her at 1 for 17 over the past few games. And if you're a fan of Caitlin Clark, you know that this is so unlike her. She is arguably the best shooter in the WNBA, and she is having a significant cold streak over the past 2 games. But her missing shots isn't actually what bothers me. The thing that bothered me most in the game yesterday was the one shot that she passed up. Now, she had been missing a few shots, and if you guys were on my live stream, I said the thing that she needs to do is to continue shooting. Shooters shoot. The only way to break a cold streak is to continue shooting.
Clark feels as though he is staring into nothing each time he turns to face the bench. As the game descends into even more pandemonium, Stephanie White stands there making gestures like she's placing an order for coffee at a noisy drive-thru. It's interpretative dancing, not coaching. The participants are trapped in a fast-paced existential crisis as they struggle to figure out which version of the plan they're following, if any, and it's beginning to show. At one point, she demands a quick pace, while at another, she screams about patience. Park's game appears to be buffering now instead of being clear and exciting. Her confidence is a little shaken, and her passes are a little late. Where she used to attack with wild genius, she is now hesitating. And really, who wouldn't? Just picture attempting to play basketball at the highest level while continuously scanning your bench for signs of sentient life and your back for flying elbows. At this rate, Caitlin will require either an exorcist or a spectacle, or perhaps both, as what's happening to her goes beyond simple awful basketball. It's psychological warfare. Instead of reducing its stars to dusty highlight tapes and regret, this league is meant to preserve and elevate them. And yet, a league that begged for her genius but failed to cultivate it is slowly draining her. Hold on.
What'd you say? Wait, what? Did you just tell me that Stephanie White went on an interview tour this whole entire offseason saying exactly that? Did you just tell me Stephanie White went on an So how come when Caitlin Clark has a bad game, this team looks like absolute dog shit? How come when Caitlin Clark isn't busy backpacking this team, it looks like absolute dog shit, coach? Just a question. Just a question. What we saw today, folks, I feel bad for everybody that had to sit through that. Everybody that wasted 2 hours and 25 minutes watching the Indiana Fever versus the Las Vegas Aces. I feel bad that we had to sit through that. That was a tough one.
The worst part is that she still hasn't found her sophomore rhythm. This is meant to be the big leap, the glow-up season, the I know what I'm doing now period. Rather, she is attempting to survive the Hunger Games with a group of mismatched teammates with a water gun. League officials are out there playing Sudoku with the rules, which is almost poetic in a tragic Shakespearean manner, while the fanbase is yelling for assistance. A talent spanning generations trapped in a Groundhog Day remake, where each game is merely a remix of disappointment and damaged ribs. And despite everything, Stephanie White keeps grinning her way through news appearances as if she's discovered some secret strategy that only exists in a parallel reality. Leave before she begins to doubt the very instincts that made her unstoppable. She's stuck in a trash fire with a hoop nailed to the side before she exchanges her fire for exhaustion and awakens to the fact that she's not spearheading a revolution. All right.
Well, I think you have to look at things a little bit holistically. I think Caitlin Clark is a really hard player to officiate, much like Diana Taurasi was throughout the course of her career, for a couple of reasons. Caitlin Clark regularly gets picked up in the full court. She also gets blitzed more over the course of her career than any player in WNBA history or in that period of time. And she also creates some contact herself on the offensive end of the floor. She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her.
The longer she remains in this emotional blender, the more difficult it will be for her to recuperate, Therefore she needs an escape strategy, a parachute, or perhaps a time machine. And yeah, losing games isn't the only issue here. This is about her losing her identity as a player as the league watches helplessly. It's confusing. As soon as she became a professional, they launched every camera and sponsorship contract. They are now allowing her to be overshadowed by her aimless dribble handle and post entries. People are paying attention to her because she is the player, not just any player. Nevertheless, they are treating her like a spare part in a team rebuild that is 20 years old and has a malfunctioning GPS. Stephanie White, meantime, is occupied with treating lineups like a Pinterest board and always playing with absurd rotations. Yes, let's remove Caitlin from the ball for 80% of the game. That will undoubtedly resolve the issue. She must save herself if no one else is going to help her, because this is the kind of setting that affects not just your stats but also your soul. To be honest, she deserves better. Better is what the supporters deserve. Better is what the game deserves.
Well, I be damned. I be damned. 7 for 20 from the field. 1 for 10 from the three-point line. And look at those turnovers. 8 turnovers. She leads the league in turnovers. But guess what? Her Clarkies are only going to be impressed, and they're going to brag about the 19 points and 10 assists. Me personally, I'm all about efficiency. I'm concerned about those last 3. Them turnovers, which she leads the league in turnovers. She is shooting horrible from the field. And as far as them three-pointers, in the last 2 games, she's only made 1 three-pointer, and that's the one against the Aces.
Therefore, Caitlin Clark had better start packing her bags unless Indiana finds a spine, a new strategy, and a coach that can distinguish between mobility, offense, and wild flailing. Because we won't be witnessing the rise of a superstar if she stays around much longer. We are witnessing Stephanie White's fantastic mystery tour of tactical misunderstanding, apathy, and terrible whistling bury a legend. She is on the court in the interim, but she is not in charge. Not even near. Caitlin Clark appears to be imprisoned in a futuristic stage play in which she plays the major role but is never permitted to speak. There are her movements. She still has talent. However, her leadership, authority, and commanding spark, which once made her the basketball universe's ultimate gravitational center, are being diminished, suffocated, and not merely ignored. There is no development for Caitlin Clark. Like a car being disassembled for components in a garage in a back alley, she is being disassembled and disassembled piece by piece. Additionally, everyone is behaving as though everything is normal, as though being gaslit into irrelevance is a character-building exercise, and as though it's just part of the rookie experience. It's not. Spoiler alert. Wrapped in a glossy WNBA emblem, it's a gradual, cruel, soul-sucking drain.
That the Indiana Fever were trying to be that team that runs you off the floor, that hustles. I felt like they were the deepest team. Like, looking at the roster, man, they actually have some players that could run the floor. And I'm just like, dang, bro, it's really crazy to see that they're not really trying to run the floor like I would expect them to. And also using Michaela Timpson. Like, that is some young pair of legs, man. You should be using Michaela Timpson to help you run the floor, play lockdown defense, hustle defense, winning the 50-50 balls. You need young legs to do that, man.
Indeed, she remains upright. She continues to appear, but at what price? Every game adds another layer of physical, psychological, and reputational scars. The toll is evident as she survives on fumes and rage. The body language is harsher, the grins are tighter, and the fires are flickering beneath a mountain of nonsense. It's not an accident, which is the worst part. Erosion is deliberate. Let's not act as though there is only one team involved. This is a systemic issue. The entire league is acting like it's just part of the culture while unleashing the mob on her. Rivals are hitting like it's personal rather than merely protecting. And now for Jenna Arima, if you thought that was as grim as it gets. It seems that in order to complete the insanity, we needed that little sideswipe. A man who could have offered guidance or support instead chose to go full demolition mode without notice, without context, and just as a condescending wrecking ball of undeserved shade directed directly at a 22-year-old navigating the largest circus in sports at the moment. As if she needed more justifications to doubt everything. It wasn't a criticism. With varsity credentials, it was character slander. The kind of condescending crap that hurts 10 times more when it comes from someone who ought to know better. That was not a coach's perception. That was sabotage. Loud, superfluous, and incredibly ineffective. Nothing was made clear by it. Simply made an already poisonous soup much more unpleasant.
This is a regular season game. There's no player that's going to be that depressed about a loss. The emotion that she's having right now, that's emotion that you have when you lose a championship. But they didn't lose a championship. So it's only one other thing. It's the coach. I knew something was up, y'all. I played basketball all my life. I played point guard. There was something off about Miss Caitlin when I was watching that Aces game. And I couldn't put my finger on it. It just seemed like Miss Caitlin, she was definitely unmotivated. She looked defeated the whole game. She didn't look like she was having fun. And that is always because of the coach.
This is a lesson in professional jealousy turned blood sport. So let's talk about the animosity from other participants. They're not merely in competition with her. They are intentionally attempting to degrade her by pushing, elbowing, and jawing at her as if it were an open mic night for all of the league's small grudges. The birds are no longer cunning. They are essentially a component of the choreography. And in some way, that's the energy that's being permitted to flourish. And nobody is taking over. The emergency brake is not being applied. While the golden goose is being pecked to death, they are too preoccupied with boosting the ratings. Every day it's a house of horrors. A poisonous feedback loop that destroys everything Caitlin stands for while continuously rewarding disorder. Elevation, leadership, grace, and accuracy. They don't want her to be well known. They want her to barely make it. They want her to shrink, conform, and question everything she does. It has nothing to do with competition. It has to do with control. It's not simply annoying. It's physically uncomfortable and disgusting, like witnessing insults spray paint a masterpiece in slow motion while everyone applauds. If you find that theatrical, consider why the league's most sought-after punching bag is also its biggest attraction. It's not a coincidence. This is deliberate sabotage.
Any professional athlete or any ball player is not having fun on the field because this is the game they love. They've been loving this since they was a kid. Because the only reason a player is not having a good time playing the game that they love is because the coach is trying to put shackles on them, trying to control them too much. With a player like Caitlin, you gotta let them loose. This is something that Steve Kerr had to realize when he was dealing with Steph. Steph was shooting all them logo threes. He was shooting all the shots early in the shot clock. Steve Kerr would shake his head. He'd be like, oh, what are you doing? But after a while, he had to let this player do his thing. Bro, that was the first time I ever seen Caitlin Clark walk the ball down the court.
We are discussing a player who inspired a new generation, sold out arenas, attracted millions of spectators, and converted casual watchers into ardent supporters. And the WNBA gave her over to a gauntlet of resentment and allowed it run wild rather than defending it. Because ritual humiliation at prime time is the best way to express gratitude for preserving the franchise. Despite her injured pride and clenched teeth, she continues to play. She continues to lace. It's dragging yourself through a league that resembles a terrible reality show with poultry more than a sport. The true harm is caused by the mental whiplash, even while the physical assaults are terrible enough. She is forced to play every day at an insane theater where the stage crew openly despises her and the rules are always changing. She is also expected to be the face of a league that won't even support her when she is being thrown around like a chew toy, the perfect role model, and the brand ambassador. Player development is not what this is. It's a sacrifice made in public. And now you can see it in her eyes. No amount of rest can cure that edge of fatigue. That silent frustration of someone who understands that doing the right thing is meaningless when the system is designed to penalize you for being alive. What do you know?
I don't think Stephanie White is like a fan of Caitlin's demon time and, you know, her getting all riled up and pumping up the crowd. I don't think she's a fan of that shit. Some coaches, like, they don't like that shit. For example, when Allen Iverson came into the league, him and Larry Brown did not get along because Larry Brown used to tell him to tone it down and not be himself and stuff like that. But I think that's what's going on with this team right now. Because when I was watching that game, man, it just did not feel right. Like, she just looked like she was just so sad about playing. It felt like she was being forced to play a certain type of way.
This horror story is not what Caitlin Clark signed up for. She committed to playing professional basketball and improving the sport. However, she ended up witnessing a league-wide identity crisis firsthand. One that uses her as both a punching bag and a scapegoat. Adversity is said to develop character, yet this goes beyond character development. Her hardships make for interesting television. The true horror story is the cliques that result from her suffering. She is deserving of better. Better is what the sport deserves. Additionally, this league must stop treating its brightest light like a fire hazard if it hopes to survive. Because it won't just be Caitlin Clark departing once she leaves, which she should do if things continue this way. Every fan who came for the magic and stayed for the hope will be remembered. And no amount of PR gibberish or damage control will be able to save them when it occurs. Since the reality will be evident. The star didn't simply fall. They shoved her. Every day, every play, every eye roll from the bench, every sneer, every non-all. She was not shielded by them. They deleted her. And after extinguishing their own flame, they will be left wondering why the lights went out.